the New York Jets shock the NFL world this upcoming season? Well, we're going to talk about it on today's edition of the Jets Report by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and welcome in. Now, before we dive into today's show, let me get the pulse of the fan base here real quick. So, Vegas, the bookmakers out west, put the over-under for the New York Jets at 5.5 wins. Are you taking the over or are you taking the under? Give me an O for over or give me a U for under. You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Hopefully by the end of today's video, you guys will be all saying the Jets win more than 5.5 games this season. Now, what does shocking the world mean for the New York Jets? I don't think this means, obviously, them making the AFC Championship game, making the Super Bowl, or winning the Super Bowl. But I do think the Jets shocking the world would be them just making the playoffs and winning 10 games, which I think is very much on the table for this football team. Now, I thought going into last season, the Jets were one of the most overrated groups in the National Football League. But going into this year, I think they're one of the most underrated groups in the NFL. And I got 5 reasons to explain my thoughts. And first one being is going to be the Jets' identity this year. It's going to be that defensive side of the football. And I think they are going to have a top 10 defense. Now, I think they honestly have the potential on paper to be a top 5 unit, but I think top 10 is very, very likely. And I think the backbone of this defense and the backbone of the entire team will be the defensive line, and mainly 3 guys: Quinnen Williams, Will McDonald, and Jermaine Johnson. Those 3 have to be game wreckers every single week. We know what Quinnen's about, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. But I think if the Jets are, going to want to reach this goal of making the playoffs, we got to be talking about Quinnen being the best defensive tackle when it's all said and done after this season. And you got the 2 young guys, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson. Could both those guys have 10-plus sacks this season? I think that's very much on the table. They have all the talent in the world. Just can they stay healthy? And then they live up to their, athletic potential that both those guys have. And then another guy that I think should be CB1 or the best in his position in the NFL, that's got to be Sauce Gardner. Now, obviously, he had a down year last year. I felt like he kind of checked out at the second half of the season. Wasn't the best tackler. But I think with now Aaron Glenn, this new culture, Steve Wilks, I think his expectation should be, I will be the undisputed cornerback 1 in the NFL. Even better than Stingley, even better than Pat Surtain. He's got that type of potential. We obviously know when he's playing his best football, he is the best cornerback in the league, as he was during his first couple of seasons. So could he be the true CB1 in the NFL? Hopefully we'll get that answer by the end of the season. But the biggest question mark defensively for the Jets is no doubt the safety group. Now, I think defensive line, they'll be all right. I think the cornerback position, if they get an AZ Thomas or Brandon Stevens to step up, that group should be all right. And then obviously we know their linebacker core is about as solid as it gets. But it comes down to the safety room. I think Cisco will be a breakout player for the Jets. I'm actually talk about him more in depth on the second half of today's show. But Tony Adams, Malachi Moore, can one of those guys step up at strong safety? Watch out for Malachi Moore, 4th-round pick out of Alabama. I think he's got a good chance to end up being the starter next to Andre Cisco this season. So I think they got the talent there. Now they got the strong defensive minds of Glenn and Wilkes. I think this should be a top 10 defense. But another reason why they could win 10 games, it's the run game. I think the Jets are going to be an old-school football team where their backbone and their identity is having that strong defense, but also being able to run the ball at a high level. Now, this past season for the Jets, they weren't able to do so. And I don't know if a lot of that has to do with the talent that was in the run game this season, but more of the offensive philosophy. Now, both these guys, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, had down years of what we expected them to do before the season. Like Breece Hall only averaging 4.2 yards per clip. Braylon Allen even worse than that, 3.6 yards per clip. But Tanner Engstrad, Aaron Glenn, coming from the Detroit Lions, could both those guys replicate what they had with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery? I think they have the talent to do so. We're just going to have to wait and see if they can do it. But I think the offensive scheme will be better. I think the running back position will be better. But the biggest question mark, but also the biggest potential out of anybody on offense is this whole offensive line. Like, this could be a top 7 group in the National Football League. Now, the 2 biggest question marks, can Fashanu and Membu be some of the best tackles in the National Football League? And also, another question, can the guys on the interior stay healthy? John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, those 3 need to stay healthy throughout the season. But if all 5 of those guys are able to play all 17 games, I'm very confident in saying that this would be a top 7 unit when it's all said and done. And I think the Jets are no doubt going to be more committed to the run all season. Like, we are going to see such a change in their philosophy from what they were last year. Where last year it was just Aaron Rodgers dropping back, trying to find Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, where this year it's going to be a lot of run, pass. You have the dual threat quarterback in Justin Fields, so we'll see a little read option game, maybe a little triple option game. But still, I think the backbone of this offense will be the running backs and that offensive line. Let those big boys up front eat, and then just get the ball to your playmakers. Braylon Allen, Breece Hall, both should have monster years for the New York Jets. But also another big reason why I think they could improve is Justin Fields, him improving. And Justin Fields, obviously, has had an up-and-down NFL career. And we all know, his faults. We all know his pros. But the faults being he hangs on to the ball too long. He hasn't been the most accurate quarterback so far. But for the first time in Justin Fields' career, I truly feel like he is a team that believes in him and a team that is built for him. Like, if you would think, just take Justin Fields as, just the singular commodity of just being who he is as a quarterback, what type of team would you want him on? It would be a defensive first team, a team that is leaning into the run game, and that's what the Jets are. And also these guys, they love him. They're going to play for him. They're going to go to battle for him. And I think if he can just shore up, those red flags of his game, like being more accurate from the pocket, not holding on to the ball too long, we should see a better version of Justin Fields. Honestly, I am very confident that this year will be the best year of his career so far. But if you guys believe in Fields, type his jersey number. Type those 7s down below in the comment section. I'm a believer in him. I think he's going to have a monster year for the New York Jets. But if you guys agree with me, give me those 7s down below in the comment section. Now, another reason why the Jets could potentially shock the NFL world this upcoming season is they got a lot of breakout candidates. And I got 5 guys I want to dive into. The Jets roster, it's a young, up-and-coming group. Aaron Glenn has made it clear he wanted to get younger across the board for this entire roster, and they did just that. And the number one guy here for me is Andre Cisco. I think with the talent around him and his just natural ball hawking ability, he should be a guy that potentially could get 6, 7, 8 interceptions this season. So I'm expecting him to take a step in his game. And then also Breece Hall, we were talking about it. The Jets should be more of a run-first team. I think he could have a monster season, potentially going over 1,100, 1,200 yards on the ground, and then, bringing in also 400, 500 yards to the passing game. I could see that being the case for Breece. But then also a guy like Jamien Sherwood. He has already broken out. I think he's already one of the better linebackers in the league. But when you ask people who are your top 5 linebackers, I think by the end of this season, everybody will be saying Jamien Sherwood. He's got the natural athletic ability. He's got great instincts. And now with a great defensive coordinator and a great defensive-minded head coach, I think he's going to be the biggest beneficiary of both those things. And also a guy like Jermaine Johnson, coming off that torn-up knee, he is probably going to be ready to go for week 1. And I could see him starting off week 1 as his kind of breakout year. Has never had double-digit sacks, but I think that will change this season. Then, lastly, Mason Taylor. I think he is one of the biggest X factors on this team, and I think he'll probably be second in receiving yards when it's all said and done this season. But there is a massive gap between him, Jeremy Ruckert, and Stone Smart. So if he can have a big season, if he can live up to that draft pedigree, this offense, people kind of view the Jets as only having, one true weapon on the outside. I think Mason Taylor is a weapon. I think him and Garrett Wilson can be a great 1-2 punch in the passing game this season. And last but not least, the head coach, the man who started it all, Aaron Glenn. And we have already seen the shift in culture this offseason. We saw it when he was talking at the scouting combine. Then we saw it at rookie minicamp. We saw it at OTAs. Then we saw it at minicamp. He has just checked every single box. And now what's next? Training camp, the preseason, joint practices, regular season. I just think he will keep on knocking off these milestones of having this team bought in. And I will say this: I would go to war for Aaron Glenn. If I was playing in the league right now, Aaron Glenn would be one of those guys that I would 100% want to play for. He has that contagious energy. He's all about football, no nonsense about him, and I think he's just going to be very successful as a head coach in the NFL. We'll see if his coordinators are able to step up, Wilkes, Engstrad, but I think with Aaron Glenn calling the shots, I really have not too many worries about the Jets' head coaching position right now. But I'll ask you guys this again to close out today's show. Over-under, 5.5 wins for the New York Jets. Give me an O for over. Give me a U for under. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. We'll see you guys next time. As always, go Jets.